Basically. So basically, we use a few things to validate that. One is your advanced analytics, through which you can see which user is basically assigned this particular role. Right, you can validate that right. Second thing is basically your reports. You can also generate reports in the report. You can see. Okay, let's say for this role. This role is assigned to which user? What time it is assigned? What kind of data will come in the report? Third one, which is actually widely used, that is, your access certification. In this, basically, a certifier will review it and they will also again approve it. Because this is not a limitation of the access review. That, okay, they will only revoke the right access, they have to also approve it. It's a both basically right access, they have to approve it, and the additional access which is not required. They have to remove it. Basically, we have 4 types of roles in Sailpoint. Right organizational IT, business and entitlement. Right organizational role is just a container. Right, so we have to. Just whenever we want to define a container, we will use organizational role. Right now, some organizations want to use role-based access control 100%. Right, they don't want user to require entitlement. Right. So for each entitlement, they can create a role. Basically. Right, so that is your 4th type of entitlement. Let me show you the screen. Yeah, this one right. This 4 organizational role is your container. Right entitlement role is basically, for each entitlement you will create an entitlement role. Right, so from this I started. So basically we have 4 type of role. Organizational business, IT and entitlement. Organizational role is just a container, no other use. Okay, now entitlement role. We already have entitlement. Right. So what is the need of entitlement role? Those organizations who want to use complete RPG system, right? They don't want user to request this entitlement. This entitlement that you have in the entitlement catalog. Right, from the manager access. They don't want user to request this entitlement. Instead of that, they want user to request a role. So for each role, they will create an entitlement role. Right, which is again, kind of adding more load to system. So this is not widely used, but some organizations still prefer this. Right now, mainly we use business and IT role. And these 2 roles are actually dependent on each other. Right, this is not like 2 different categories, but it's basically a combination of, different unit providing a complete solution to the role, basically. So this business role and IT role, basically together providing access to the user. Right now. What is the difference? How they're related to each other. The business role contains the assignment logic right. How this business role will be assigned to the different identities in the system. So that assignment logic we will put inside the business role. Now coming to the IT role right basically, which access we want to assign to the user that will bind inside this. We will add inside this IT role and we will link this both role together as a single unit. Right, basically, if you remember one concept we use in Oracle Identity Management, access policy. So we also have roles in Oracle Identity Management, right? So what access policy does? Whenever a person joins the organization, access policy will be triggered on that user. And it will check if any role is required to be assigned to the user right. So basically, access policy is a business role. That's the policy and IT role. Is that particular role which will be assigned to user? What is that role actually? Actual access, basically the actual access on the system. And this is not limited to one application. You can bind multiple applications, multiple entitlements, or a combination of anything in this IT role. So business role is basically an access policy. So for IT admin we can create one role and we can bind all those entitlements in one role. We will simply assign one role to all the IT admin. And in order to automate that assignment, what we will do? Simply, we will put that logic right. There should be some property that. Okay, this particular user is the IT admin, right? So we will define that property here inside the business role. If any user is fulfilling that property, Sailpoint will automatically assign this business role to those users. Basically, let's say they have the designation right, like senior IT admin, right? Yeah, network admin, basically yeah, network admin, so any user? So we put that logic here inside the business role that any user whose designation is senior IT admin, network admin. Right, so Sailpoint will automatically assign those business roles to those admin users. Basically. For example, let's say you have configured an Active Directory application, right? Now when you see from the different domain or right like that. So basically, you select Active Directory application, right? Now you can configure multi-domain. Here right, you enter a private value, here you can click Add. It will show you another row. So now each object that will be scanned by the Active Directory connector account and the group. We Sailpoint manage two things only, account and the group, right? Account is basically a user account, group is basically access, right? Now the group let's talk about, let's say, group. Each group will have the DN right now. DN will also tell you, okay, this particular group belongs to domain controller A. Or this particular group belongs to domain controller B, right? They will have the complete DN value, DC equal to something like that, right? That is actually already bind with your entitlement here. And the particular entitlement we are just adding here, so we don't need to manage those domain controller or thing when Sailpoint will assign that entitlement. That time, Sailpoint will check. Okay, this entitlement comes from this particular domain. So we need to provision into this domain. If you see, the purpose of role is to assign the entitlement. For example, let's say we have an application here, Write AD. Write AD has two domain. Domain A, from the domain A, we are bringing entitlement AA, entitlement AB. Okay, and similarly from the domain B, we are bringing this entitlement BA, BB. Okay, these two. So I'm using prefix here for the domain A, and here this one B. Right now, if you pick this entitlement or pick an entitlement, this will show you DN value, right? Right, it will. Basically, what is the entitlement? AD group. In the AD group, you will see the DN, right? Every object has a DN in the AD system, right? So same DN, it will show here. And using DN, you can simply find that this particular object belonged to which domain, right? So basically, like, for example, this picture, if you see it. So, for example, inside this, we come to your domain, inside the domain, we are in the system, in the group. Now, I guess these are the domain admin security group, basically right. If you click on this, you will see the DN distinguished name of this group, right? Basically every object in AD. You will see that DN right, the few attributes basically are presented like DN, same name, UID. Sorry, with those kind of attributes. So using the DN you can check OK, like for example, if I just show you DN of this, you know this domain admin. You can simply check where this object lies, right? Because DN, you know, give you the reverse hierarchy, correct? Or let me show you. ID group DN values. So this is the one. Every object has this value. So this is the name, attribute name. This is a distinguished name attribute in the Active Directory system. This is also for user as well as for the group. Distinguished name will always give you unique value, right? And using that value, you can find out where your actual object lies in this, basically this kind of hierarchy. You will see a little complex hierarchy like this, how it works. Basically it's a reverse. This is your domain controller. Basically, this is a root,